Welcome back to the Village Build Project. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys how to turn this, what is it? This is last week's video. I'm going to be showing you guys how to turn this piece of land into this. Alright, plan and land. Now, I want to make my blueprint, I want to make my plan, but first I need to prepare my land. The only thing I needed to do here was flatten out the land, which you can see I've already done, and then also I needed to trim this rock back towards the water so I had a little bit more room to work with. I didn't want to get rid of the rock entirely though, because I still wanted it to be part of the landscape. Alright, now we've got that rock out of the way, we've got more room to work with, now it's time for a blueprint. The blueprint for this project is pretty cool. Now keep in mind this is for a blacksmith's or a handyman's house, so we definitely needed a workshop. On the right side we have the main building, which is the house. In the middle we've got the workshop with a forge built into the back of it, and then above you can see I've already done some kind of vertical shapes, and that's because we're actually going to have a bridge coming across the main road into the house. It's going to be really cool. Here we have the completed blueprint. You can see the main house is 6 meters tall, the workshop itself is only 3 meters tall, and the bridge is 7 meters tall. Now this does not include the roofs though, this only includes the maximum height of the walls. Alright, now it's time to do the walls and the floors, at least the basic shape of them. You can see that I chose to go with stone. This is a blacksmith's house, so I thought stone made sense. And you can also see that I decided to go with a bricklaying pattern where you kind of alternate them a little bit, which I think looks much better. As I came over to the workshop, I just decided to go with just a little bit of a frame. I wanted to keep the workshop very open, so I thought just a quick trim around it would be good enough for now. I also added in some quick upright stone pillars just to kind of fit the theme. Next, I did the chimney where I used the same bricklaying pattern as before, but the cool part about the chimney is at the bottom of the chimney I needed it to be a little bit larger so I could fit in the stone hearth, but I didn't want to keep that same giant rectangle all the way up. So near the top you can see I decided to go with a little bit of a smaller rectangle, creating more of a realistic looking chimney. After that, I did the floor for the house and also the floor for the bridge. And then I finished up all of the floors by doing an alternating stone floor pattern on the workshop floor. And finally, we have the walls for the bridge. You can see right here, I decided to leave an opening where I figured I could put a little deck over the workshop. I didn't have a plan for it yet though, so I didn't do anything else. Right here on this side, you can see I'm just kind of putting up a frame for the doorway. This will actually be the front entrance to the home. I also left some spots for windows here on the bridge, and then I also decided to go ahead and connect this up to the house. You can see I kind of had to break into the stone foundation a little bit, but once I did that, the bridge was fully connected up to the house and the frame was fully built. Okay, so roof frames and door frames. So for the roof frame, I like to use a 1 meter beam sticking out from the actual structure, and then I like to fill in the gaps with the 2 meter beams, which you'll see me doing in just a moment. The reason I like to do this is because it gives you a place to connect your roof panels that is sticking out a little bit further than your build, which overall just looks a little bit better and a little bit more realistic. Now you can see I left a gap in the center. That's because we're going to have 2 different roofs going in opposite directions, meeting up in the middle. You can also see that I moved over to the bridge and I did the exact same thing with a frame. I built out a 1 meter beam and then I connected them with 2 meter beams. Alright, so now we can move on to the door frames because the workshop's roof will actually just be built directly onto the workshop. We don't really have a lot of room around the workshop, so no frame needed. We need to keep that roof small. And you can see here, right now, I'm just making the door frames for the house. So I opened up a spot to connect the workshop to the outside, and also I'm opening up the workshop to the house itself. This is when I decided I would use these doors right here, which are 3 meters tall. So you can see that I've busted out a 3-meter tall doorway. And then also right here, I decided to do one quick little thing, which was to fill in the pillars of the workshop up to the bridge. Now you can see I'm doing the same thing for the front door, just making a 3-meter tall door frame. And then I'm kind of building a little bit of a frame outside for the front entrance. This will end up changing later on, but for now I'm going to be using this frame to build something really cool. But I want to talk about the roof first, and then we'll come back to that. Now, there's a little bit of a concept I'm going to explain to you guys here that's kind of cool. The roof here in the front, you can see is 6 meters wide. But the roof here in the back, you can see is actually 8 meters wide, which means they take a different amount of roof panels to get to their center. So this kind of at first created a problem for me. I wanted to have 45 then 26 degree angle roofs to create a nice curve, but you can see they don't meet up. So the way I fought this is that for this roof here that was shorter than the other one, I just used two 45 degree angle roof pieces back to back, and then the other roof you can see is 45 to 26, and they ended up meeting up perfectly in height, which is really cool because I didn't have to deal with having one roof a different height from the other. Alright, so now I can show you guys how to do that really cool something, and that is these two columns right here. Now the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure these columns line up to each other. So you can see I've got a 2-meter beam sticking out from the stone wall on both sides. That's my point of reference. And then you can see I'm pressing shift on this pole. Now don't spam shift like I did right here and get sticky keys. But once you figure out kind of how fast you can press shift without getting sticky keys, you could just do a bunch of tests until your pole goes straight up. Now the reason you're waiting for it to go straight up is because you want to do the same thing on the other side with the other column, and that's going to make sure that your columns line up just right. After that, you can see that I'm simply just rotating each pole 2 times and connecting them kind of into each other, creating a nice smooth rounded edge. But that's that. The next layers you just have to place directly onto the first layer. Alright, so the basic shape for the columns is in, but of course later on when we are coming around and adding details to everything else, we'll add a few more details to the columns as well. Alright, so the roof. Now the basic shape of the roof, like I said before, we've got one side, the one that I'm doing right now, which is 45 degrees to 26 degrees, making that really nice curvature. And then we have the other direction, which, like I said before, needed to be a little bit taller, so it's 45 degrees to 45 degrees. So then I connected up the roofs in the middle. This was pretty simple. I basically just used corner pieces on the bottom since they're built right next to each other. But at the top, I wasn't able to use corner pieces. So what I did is I just built the roof all the way across, going in both directions. This made it a little messy on the inside, but at least on the outside, it looked nice and flush. Next, I did the basic shape of the roof over the bridge, which I used 45 degree angle roof pieces into 26 degrees because, of course, like I said before, it creates a really nice curvature for your roof. Alright, so next I wanted to fill in the gaps that were created by adding the roofs, and so I just did that basically by using the corresponding angled walls. And then you can see, for this example, I used a 26 degree angle X and a beam, and then I used a cage wall. Now, the cage wall didn't end up working out because I remembered that I'm using the 3-meter tall doorway, so I placed that in, and then I basically just placed in the smaller cage wall to fit. Alright, so for the next opening, I had a little bit more room to work with, so I decided to use the angled walls to make this nice diamond shape. Of course, I wanted to use the cage walls once again, so I had to break one of these angled walls really quick while I placed this cage wall. And then you can see I put the smaller cage walls in the top to fill in. There was a little bit of a gap. You really could just leave the gap, but personally, I kind of liked the look of the cage walls sticking out slightly above the roof. Next, we have one of my favorite details you can add to a build in Valheim, and that's just this extra little bit of roof trimming. You can see all I'm doing is free placing beams right onto the existing beams, just a little bit lower. Alright, so now I decided to finish up the roof by adding in some nice trimming on the top. Now it's time to finish it up down here at the workshop. Now you can see for this one, I decided to use angled walls. You'll see in a moment why I decided to do that. For the second angled wall here, it wouldn't let me place it, so I did have to free place that one, but I think it looks just fine once you get it right. And then over here you can see that I've just changed to the opposite angled piece and filled in the tops, and then I've added an X at the top. Now you can see why maybe I used these angled walls. It creates this really thick kind of roof edge, which I wanted for the workshop. I decided to do just the little bit of kind of a railing down here. I felt like this was going to be a key part of the look of the workshop, so I wanted to get a little bit of this on while I was doing the roof. Alright, then I quickly finished up the railing on the other side of the workshop, and then I got to placing the roof tiles. Now these are 26-degree angle roof tiles. You can see on the last one I had to overlap them to fit the length of the workshop. Kind of an unfortunate thing. I hate overlapping the roof tiles if I don't have to, but honestly, it's tucked all the way into the back. You really can't notice it. You can see here on the inside, I had to do the same thing with the 26-degree angle peak. I had to overlap it. Then I went ahead and I added a little trimming to the inside of the roof, and I actually left these nice openings that are here because, of course, we're in the workshop. There's a big fire in here. There's going to be a forge in here. So, my idea is, maybe they need a lot of ventilation. And then you can see on the top of the roof, I decided to add the same details that we were using before on the other roofs. Chimney, side door, and overlook. In this section, we're going to do the final roofing. I know you're probably tired of roofing, but these are just 3 very small, little, very simple roofs. Over the chimney, you can see I built a 1 meter high frame, and then I just covered it up with 26-degree angle intersecting roof pieces. And then I finished it up with some iron bars. Alright, next I did a quick little roof over the side door. You can see I added a 45-degree angle roof peak on top of a very simple 3 meter tall frame. And then of course, I'm just adding the basic trimming around the edges. And then you can see I finished it up by connecting up the handrail to the wall. Alright, so now it's time to do the final piece of roofing on the entire project. I know there was a lot of roofing on this project, but we're almost done. For this one, for the overlook, I decided to build a circular platform, which of course makes a circular roof. The circular platform, some people might think, oh, I don't want to do that, it's going to make it complicated. It's actually pretty simple. Let me show you how I did it. First of all, I did a nice little railing around the bottom, and then I decided that I would do 3 upright pillars to support the roof itself. This keeps it very simple. Alright, so I have 4 beams connecting up my uprights to the roof behind, and these 4 beams are what make this very simple. Once I've got them all placed, all I have to do is place 4 26-degree angle roof pieces right into these beams. Very simple. I kind of overcomplicated it for myself with the second layer. For the second layer, all you have to do is actually do just the 2 outside roofs, and they overlap enough to cover everything. For some reason here, I didn't realize that, and I did all 4, like a second layer of them, and it looks kind of ridiculous. But way later on in the project, I come back and I realize I don't need all of these extra roofs sticking out the top. Alright, walls. Finally something other than roofs. Now first things first, I wanted to get some windows into these walls. Now, big tip for windows, build them from the outside in. Design your windows how they look good on the outside of your build, and then you can deal with how they work on the interior later on. You can see for this window, I kind of just broke into the wall. I filled in this broken area with wood on the sides and the floor and the ceiling, which looks really cool. And also I just trimmed out this window with beams and poles and added a nice little 26-degree angle X on top. You can see now I'm working on the inside, and like I said, it doesn't matter where the window is on the inside, you can make it work. You want it to look the best from the outside. The final detail I added to the windows is a little bit of wood paneling right below it just to create this really cool kind of tall window design. Alright, next I decided to add a little bit of a trimming layer on the underside of the peak above the door. I just thought it looked kind of cool. I don't know. I've never done anything like that before, but it added a nice little extra element to that peak right there. Next, also, I decided to make a quick change to the windows using the 26-degree angle wall pieces. You know, you could use either here, the X's or these. I just thought these looked slightly better. And now finally we get to the details on the pillars. We can finish the pillars. I wanted to show you guys this a while back, but it just didn't make sense at the time. You can see all I did for this is I just kind of free placed little 1 meter tall poles right into the pillar itself, and it creates this really nice thick base on the pillar, making it look like a little more realistic, making it look like it can support itself very easily. Alright, next I decided to add a little bit of an extra detail to this wall over here. I felt like it was kind of boring, so I broke into the wall, placed iron grates in the back just like I did for the windows, and then also, just like I did for the windows, I decided to line the inside with wood. Alright, so now the details on the walls are done on the house, on the main build, but we've still got all the rest of the walls to do. So I got started with adding arches to the bridge and also adding iron bars to the windows inside of the bridge. Next, I went ahead and came back to the arches and changed out this beam here. I actually wanted to leave that beam as plain, like a plain beam, but it just looked too out of place. You can see here I framed out the pillars supporting the kind of workshop area. I thought that was cool. It matched the railing down below. And then after that, I added the windows to the workshop. Like I said before, we're keeping the workshop really open, so we're just going to be using iron grates here. Next, I placed an iron cage wall across the bridge from the workshop because it just kind of came out really symmetrical and really nice. And then I used these smaller iron cage pieces for the railing for the overlook, and then I started working on the trimming for the chimney. You can see I went ahead and I traced out the general shape to get things started, and then next I decided to fill in the walls with kind of these big X designs. Now the cool thing about this is that on the main sides they're pretty much squares, so you get regular X's. But on the other sides, they're a little bit different because you have more of a rectangle shape that you're working with. You can see the design is different, but they're similar enough, I found, that, you know, as you go around the chimney, it actually looks really cool. Alright, so the next thing I wanted to do is build up the wall around the workyard. You can see I used the same type of railing that I've been using throughout the whole build. I wanted this workyard to feel very natural, very organic, so the shape is very much just kind of flowing with the environment. You can see I added a little gate here which would lead you to the front entrance of the house, and I also brought the road up to the gate. Alright, so for the final detail, I added ravens on each end of the roofs. I also added them on the chimney, but I ended up taking those down because they just didn't look as good. Alright, so for the workyard. Now, of course, you guys know this is the blacksmith's house. So I wanted to have a workyard where a blacksmith could come and he could form stones and rocks that he could use to build structures. And also I wanted him to have ores there that he could use to make tools and weapons and armor and things like that. So you can see right now I'm out in the woods spawning in all the different rocks that you can spawn in Valheim. Here is a list of the smaller ones I decided that would work really well with this project. But of course, there are also some other ones that I think look really cool that you could have used. So I thought I'd throw them in here just so you guys can see. These are all really cool looking ones too. I just decided not to use them in this setting. Now I went ahead and I built the workyard, but before I show you the workyard, quick fix time. Alright, so really quickly, I wanted to fix the area around the workyard. You can see right here in front of me, I've got part of the dock that I built in episode 1. If you want to see how I built it, check out episode 1. But you can see right here, it's a little bit cluttered in this area, so I decided to get rid of the dock. Alright, so in the area where I'm pulling the dock back towards the blacksmith's house, I decided to put a medieval lamppost. So these were the 4 kind of concepts I was working with for the lamppost. And here is the lamppost in its final position. Check it out, this area looks so much better now. So now we can head up the road. You can see on the left side, I have a nice little retaining wall. You can see on the right, we've got a nice little storage cart here. Maybe this is how the blacksmith brings in the rocks. You can see as we go up a little bit, we've got a grindstone and a stone cutter to work with. We've also got tools back on little boards up out of the way. And then you can see we've got kind of some stone bricks that maybe the blacksmith has been carving out of stones. We've got grass underneath the green stones, stone paving underneath, you know, the stones and the ores. And then we also have dirt right in the middle of the workyard to make it feel like it's really worked in. All right, now it's time to finish up all of the outdoor space. We're gonna come over here towards the water. You can see we've got a lot of plain dirt. We need to do some landscaping and some path making. And then you can also see that we've got this big stone here, which I've had a plan for a while, which you'll see in just a moment. All right, check it out. The front door area is done. First things first, let's talk about the path and the landscaping. You can see the path connects up to the dock on both sides. It also connects up to the workshop and the front door. And then you can also see that I've kind of trimmed the path with grass and bushes. Also, as I turn around here, you can see the boat ramp. So my idea behind this is that maybe the blacksmith is also a bit of a handyman, so maybe he could do repairs on boats for the people of the village. If you're wondering how I got this boat to place on land, all you have to do is shift click and it will let you do that. Now all we have left to do is the interior of the estate, but I thought I might as well go around and put some finishing touches on the outside. So you can see here, I'm just going around and spawning in small bushes here and there, and even spawning in some raspberry bushes here in the front to add a little bit of color. You can see this is also the point where I finally realized that I did not need all of these overlapping roof panels on the Overlook. Alright, that is that. If you guys want to stick around for like 10 more seconds, you can check out some final cinematic shots of this whole build. Thank you guys very much for watching. More coming soon on this village build project. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And of course, as always, have a good one.